Hi, and welcome to another Radan technical video. In this video, we'll look at the Administrative Tools feature for resetting user preferences. The main use of the Reset User Preferences utility is to copy existing user preferences from one Radan user to another. This can be an advantage particularly with new users, as they often want to start out with user settings similar to an established Radan user's settings. The Reset User Preferences dialog can be accessed from the File pull-down menu, selecting Administration Tools, then Reset User Preferences, which brings up the Reset User Preferences dialog. Either select a user whose system data you want to copy to your user preferences, or pick the Reset to System Defaults option. System defaults are preferences that were in place when the Radan software was first installed. Don't bother looking for your own user listings since you're the active user that any selected profile in the list will be copying preferences to. Also be aware that some system data changes will only be made when you restart the software. Once a user is selected from the user list of the Reset User Preferences dialog, the user preference categories that have been modified and saved specifically for that selected user are enabled. Those preferences still grayed out are categories of user preferences that have not yet been saved for the selected user. Let's take a look at how this works in Radan. As mentioned earlier, the Reset User Preferences utility is available from the Administration Tools menu. Notice when the Backup Programmer user is selected, 4 categories of user preferences are available for selection, indicating that the backup programmer has saved specific user preferences in these available categories. Checking one or more of these categories and selecting the OK button would set my personal Radan user preferences to match the backup programmer's settings of the selected categories. Notice when I select the last user in the list that only the category Radan is available for selection, indicating that that user has only saved user preferences from that user preferences category. Selecting that category box and selecting the OK button would copy those user preferences to my user preferences. The option to reset the system defaults is always available. Some of the Radan settings and options that can be copied using the Reset User Preferences utility include the options and output settings used within the Define Developments command, which generates part flat pattern drawings from 3D solid models. Other user preferences include the settings and options that control the colors used in Radan, as well as drafting feature values and other preferences. Nest schedule settings can also be copied between users using the Reset User Preferences tool. When importing DXF or DWG files, any Save 2D import options can be copied between users with this method, as well as DXF export settings. And when importing IGES files, any saved import options can be copied between users, as well as the IGES export settings. Once all the user preferences have been set and saved, there is an option to safeguard you altering these settings accidentally. You must have the privileges of the System Manager to make user preferences available for changing or updating. To switch on these privileges, turn on the settings from the Administration Tools System Manager menu option. Once selected, it has a check mark next to it. Select it again when you want to turn it off. The default installation setting for the System Manager option is active, meaning that changes to user preferences settings can be saved. So in Radan, notice the System Manager setting and the option to set new passwords are included as part of the administration tools. You can use the Set New Password menu option to allocate a password for switching on the System Manager privileges. This brings up the Set New Password dialog. You will need to enter the current password correctly before you enter and confirm a new one Then only those with this password can switch on the System Manager in order to allow user preference settings to be saved. So the Reset User Preferences utility is a quick and simple way to copy preferred user settings and options between Radan users, and also a way to set any Radan user preferences back to the default installation settings. Thanks for watching this tech video, and stay tuned for more videos from the Radan Resource Newsletter.